this is Heather and I am back with another video. Today I'm altering the cover of my December daily album, and this album I purchased recently from the Paper and Ink Boutique, which I did a haul video on, so if you want to see that, go and click over to that one. It's in my recent videos. And this is a snap album by Simple Stories, and I did like the cover design, but the collection that I'm using doesn't have any green in it for my December daily, so I wanted to make it coordinate a little better and make it more my own. So I decided to collage all of these papers onto the cover to cover up the design that was on there. I am going to keep the inside design the same. It's this nice red plaid sort of pattern, so I'm keeping that the same because it does work well with my December daily collection that I'm using. So yeah, here we go. I'm just Mod Podging a combination of papers onto here. There's some from a couple different books. One of them is a Beethoven book, I believe, so it's got some music notes in it, which is pretty cool, and some handwritten letters. So I like those pieces as well. And then the other book I think is just some kind of history book, and that's the more white paper. So I'm trying to disperse those colors and patterns evenly along the front and the back of the book. And you can see I'm just sliding pieces under this book plate. I didn't have to try and take it off or anything, but the papers slide under it nicely so that I can get up and make it look seamless, get up close and make it seamless. So that's what I'm doing. I did leave a few bare spots of the cover showing because it did have a nice textural pattern as well, but I just covered all the areas that didn't work well. So I heat set the front a little so I could lay it on its front and work on the back now, and I'm just gonna collage some more papers on here. It did stick to my poster board on my table a little bit, but it worked out fine, and I'm using a combination of big and small pieces, just dispersing those patterns around. It's just therapeutic to paint and Mod Podge these pieces all together and make a fun collage. I love doing mixed media projects like this. The collection that I'm going to be using for December Daily is the Canadian Winter Collection by Wild Whisper, and I am a co-owner of Wild Whisper, so just so you know, but we do have some pretty fun stuff, so you should check it out if you haven't already. It's going to be a really fun one this year, I think, because it's not Christmas specific, but it has lots of winter elements, and December Daily I do lots of wintry things, so it'll be perfect for that, and I can add little bits here and there to make it more Christmassy when I need, or interpret the Christmas stuff more more strongly, I guess. I'm trying to think what I'm talking about and watching what I'm doing here. So I'm just finishing it off with a few little pieces, and that pretty much does it. I realized that I probably could have laid the book flat like this to do the whole thing, but whatever, it worked out. So I'm giving it a little dry, and now I'm using some of those Canadian Winter papers to add interest to the cover and to tie in with what I'll be doing on the interior pages as well. So those papers will be used within my album. I'm going to be using the pocket pages again, as well as a combination of just tags and homemade pockets, paper pockets and stuff like that. So similar to what I've done before. I'm really liking the pocket page format for December Daily in the 6x8 size, so I stuck with it again this year. I'm adhering on some of the snowshoe paper and the skate paper and the deer paper from the collection, and I just laid those out and added them on. The ripped edges kind of helps that thick paper seal on with the Mod Podge because it has sort of a tapered edge to it, and I like the way that rip looks. It blends in more with the text paper, and all the textures going on. So that is going to get a little dry from my heat tool as well, just because I am an impatient crafter and gotta keep moving. So I'm just making sure those bends work out well. And I've got this homemade stencil. It's just made from cardstock, and I use some of our Wild Whisper cut files from the silhouette, and I'm using some not Mod Podge, what is this? I'm losing my words today. I'm out of practice, you guys, at doing voiceovers. This is the molding paste, and it's drying up a little bit, but so it's pretty thick, but it still works fine. I just have to really press it into that stencil. So I'm going to let that dry and do some stamping. I'm using the Canadian Winter stamp set, and I'm stamping this mask and toque on some scrap paper and fussy cutting that out. This is going to be a mask. It is goggles. I call the goggles a mask, but the piece of paper is going to be a mask to mask off my embossing that I'm about to do. It'll make sense. I'm saying mask a lot, but I'm heat setting this champagne embossing powder, and I like to heat set from the back to start so it doesn't all blow away just while my heat tool heats. And then I'm going to apply the mask on the scrap paper that I made, just temporarily adhere it to the top of the embossing powder, line up the deer stamp with those goggles, and then peel off the mask. And you've got this really cute deer wearing his goggles and his toque. And so that's a fun technique that you can do with this stamp set. Now I'm going to do a wash of black paint all over the cover, and I'm just mixing black acrylic paint with water, and then I'm rubbing some of it off with a dry paper towel to give it that distressed sort of look. And I'm going to also add some more darkness around the edges to give it that distressed look, but I am trying to be careful not to get it on the inside of the cover, because as I mentioned, I'm leaving the inside as it is. It is a shiny sort of surface, so I probably could wipe the paint off, but just being a little bit careful. And then I'm going to add some of this metallic paint on the front and back of the cover, just to add some more interest and some shine. And I'm going to be using all different kinds of metal inside the album, so I figured different colors of metal paint work fine. So I'm adding some of that champagne embossing powder just to the wet paint. I'm sprinkling it on and heat setting it, and it sort of melts as it's falling to the cover. This does make a big mess because some of it does blow away, but I really like this technique. I like to melt it as I'm just sprinkling it on the cover. It creates a neat random look. I'm adding some Vintage Photo Distress Oxide ink to my deer, and then I'm going to carefully paint with Mod Podge the book plate on the spine here, and then I'm going to add embossing powder to it because, of course, embossing powder sticks to anything sticky. And then I'll just heat set that, and it coordinates perfectly with the deer wearing the goggles and the other bits of embossing powder that I've melted onto the cover. So I like that look. And as I said, I'm mixing metals, so the gold and the bronzish color on the cover, and I'll be mixing metals inside as well. Now I'm going to work on the label for this book plate. I just stamped the little snowshoe from the Canadian Winter set, and I'm adding these stickers that say 2019. I'll just trim that out and slide it into the book plate. I like to add the year to my December dailies somewhere because it helps keep me organized and helps me remember which one's which. And so that is how it looks. I think it turned out pretty cute. I'm going to be figuring out where to place my deer, but first I'm going to add some gold paint to the raised areas of that embossing paste or molding paste. Sorry if you can hear my dog in the background, she's growling. So that kind of accents those deer and moose that I've got on there in the paste. And then I'm going to glue on my deer wearing his goggles. I could have used Mod Podge for this, but I just went with glue and actually added Mod Podge after just to seal it in. And I've got a little sticker here from the Tim Holtz Christmas phrase sticker set. I don't know if that's what it's called, but that's what it is. There's all these different text phrases. And I finished it off with some Nouveau drops to cover the goggles, which you'll see in the end pictures, and some little black Nouveau drops as well. I did add some more distress ink to the cover after, and I added some to the edges of the inside cover too, just to tie it all in. But that is my December daily cover for 2019. I hope you enjoyed my process. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful Christmas and a wonderful month ahead.